topic is Marxist criticism. And in this topic, before we start this topic, we should be aware of the terms like proletariat and bourgeoisie. So, and we should make sure that you are also aware of their spellings also. Okay. So the proletariats, these are the peoples who have no means of production. It means they don't own anything to earn money. Rather, they sell their labor, their power, their manpower, and their body in order to earn their livelihood. And that this labor class or the daily wage earners are also referred as proletariat in the books of Marx, the Communist Manifesto. Okay, and the another term here is bourgeoisie. These are the class of people who owns the means of production, that all the values creating or production things, industries or anything that generates the value, and the final profit will go to these people, bourgeoisie. Okay, so in this discussion, the so in this discussion, what I am going to do is, first of all, I'm going to look over the type of questions that has been asked in the IGNOU paper. After that, we are going to go into their discussions deeply. Okay. So first part of this discussion is dialectic materialism. So the question that has been asked in the paper was, explain the Marx idea of dialectical materialism and how does it influence understanding of literature. Okay, and in this we will discuss about the society formation and various other thoughts processes and ideas about the society and thinking. After that, we will discuss about the most important part, that is base and superstructure, and why these words, rather superstructure, or these words are coined by the Marx. The next question, that is base and superstructure, and three times continuously in December 19 and in June 20 also, IGNOU has asked the question of what is superstructure, what is its function, how does it control the base. Okay, and after that we will go on the terms like ideology and hegemony, and what are these things and how do they function. For example, the main questions that has been asked in this part is, write a short note on essay explaining the Marx is opposed to both idealism and mechanical materialism, and in what sense is literature a form of propaganda. How does this literature is used by the dominant class as a propaganda. Okay, and the last topic of our discussion will be, since it is a terms of literature and Marx is completely expanded subject, it has a portion in political science, sociology, ethics, and various fields. But we are the students of literature, so major concern is for us is our literature only. So the questions that comes is, write a short essay showing how Marx had influenced many critics in 20th century, and we need to provide it with various examples. So we are going to start with our first slide. So before we think about this first slide, okay, the dialectic materialism. So there is a class system in which we are living today, but it is not like that. That these modern peoples has evolved modern all of a sudden. Okay, so these modern peoples are not all of a sudden. It is a step-by-step phenomena. Okay, so let's see. This is the primitive society. Then it gets transformed into masters and slave, and these masters and slave then transformed into feudalism, and then it turns into capitalistic system of society. And what do we refer these eras, these periods? These words are referred as epoch, epoch, the primitive society. For example, when the human was born, he was economically independent. Like, for example, he will find the food for himself, he cook the food for himself, and he's individually independent and doing all his things all alone without any concern with the other. There is no sense of teamwork in that period. Okay, and then what happened? There comes a next epoch, that is a category of masters and slaves. So these people, for example, when they identified that somebody is good in this, somebody is good in that, and economically they associate themselves in a team to strengthen themselves, and then there is an evaluation of tribal systems, so Sardar or some masters, and that is the new definition for masters and slave society. And when the time passes, these people have realized that the owner, the master, is coming from the single family, that is master's family, and we are working, we are the soldiers, we are the cultivators, and they are doing nothing. Then there is a transformation again in the society to a feudalism society. This word, the feudalism, see, this word has been originated from the word fee, F-double-E. This is referred as land. Okay, then these lands, in Indian language, we call it zamindars. Okay, and in that period, there were feudals and peasants. So the society has been divided into classes where people are nobles, clergies, and then there are peasants. Okay, and the peasants were working in the cultivation agricultural lands, and those nobles peoples are getting all the money and giving the peasants only the subsistence living, and there were monarchs as well. So there were monarchs as well. Okay, then what happened is, for example, we have seen the status of French Revolution. What happened is the king was having all the luxury. He was not hideous to the people's plight. And in this similar situation of feudalism, imagine the people who are having lots of land holdings, zamindars, and they are very much rich. Okay, and then the industrial revolution came into picture. For example, in England itself, the James Watt and steam engine, and then there is a workshops and working machineries, and the content that could be created, and the material that can be created within seconds. Okay, and these people, these merchants, with the help of machineries, started getting rich, and it is a natural phenomena. For example, these feudals, they are the high power classes, they are the money classes. At the same time, you will see the merchant classes who are getting rich day by day by great businesses, great commerce. And now there comes a conflict, and these people gets into conflicts that leads to the revolutions, the industrial revolution, or on other side, whole of the Europe has turned into these kind of revolutions, and this leads to formation of another society. In this society, what these people are, these are capitalist society, means the private ownership, the private ownership society. And remember this, that people who are the owners, the private owners, they have come from these people only. For example, somebody having a workshop, all are people equal, but when the mechanization machinery comes, some people got rich, very much rich on these metrics, some gets poor. Okay, this is the transformation of society from primitive to masters, then masters to feudal system, then feudalism to capitalism. Okay, and it is a perception of Marx that this capitalism will turn into socialism, or you can call it as communism. Okay, so now we go on the term as dialectic materialism. Okay, this term is basically the concept from the word that does mind create reality, or reality creates mind. The contradiction here is, for example, people say, you have if you have a good thinking, if you think good, then good things will happen to you. Okay, these were the thinkings of old people, these were the ideas of old people, and the new things came that you are thinking in this scenario only because you are cultured or you're nourished in this style only. Okay, so now we understand what is this, the word dialectic and materialism. This is actually a process. It is a combination of two words, dialectic and materialism. So dialectics, this, see, in every society or even in any place, in every society or even in any place, there is always some people are in support of a statement, and some people are against it. For example, in India also, some people support this kind of system or some people are against this. And in whole world, in every time, there will always be a thesis, a thought, and then there is an antithesis. And when two different thought process mixes with together, then they are always in contradiction, and then they form a new thought process which is called synthesis. And when the time passes, this synthesis will turn back into thesis. Okay, this is the understanding of dialectics. That is that is the contradictory thoughts, two different contradictory thoughts happening at the same time. Okay, this term dialectics was given or used by a philosopher, G.W.H. Hegel. We will discuss about him later. Okay, and then there is another thought, that is materialism. In other sense, we say in Hindi like Mo Maya, or and that is everything which we have, which we are consuming, that is real, and there is no God, nothing imaginary, nothing spiritual, no power, nothing else. Everything that we can touch or we can use or we can see, that is only the existing thing in the universe. Okay, see, what is the definition, that to consider material possession more important than spiritual possession, or nothing exists except matter and its modification. Okay, see what happened actually. These two people, one was Marx and another person was Engel. See, Marx was born in Germany. At that period, it was a monarch of Prussia, the region of Prussia. And the ruler of Prussia, he was absolute power lover. He was suppressing the people and using people's energy or money in wasting his own luxury. Okay, and Marx was writing against all these kind of things. That's why he was abolished from various countries. Okay. On the other hand, when you think about the contemporary of Marx, there is an angel. He was the son of a capitalist, industrialist person. His father sent him to learn the business in England. When he went to the England, he see the situation, the plight of the workers, how they are ruthlessly being exploited and made to work harshly and still getting very low amount. And then he gets influenced by Karl Marx, and then both of them started studies and developed these kind of things. Okay, dialectics and materialism. Marx studies dialectics from a different school of thought. This is called Hegel school of thoughts, and then he later joined a materialistic school of thoughts. And after that, he combines both these school of thoughts. And what is there as, for example, idealist, the people who believe mind creates reality. For example, religious things, religious idealism, karma, or anything you say, that human being is reflection of his thought. Whatever you do, think in your mind, sooner or later it will reflect to you. These were the thought process of the people, idealistic thinking people, Hegel. Okay. And then Marx, after learning from the materialistic school of thoughts, combined these thinking and give a contradictory statement of him. And he said, thought is inseparable from matter that thinks. Our mind only thinks what is around. The mind is just reflection of reality. For example, we have a singer in India today who has been nourished in a religious family, then she will always be inclined to sing the religious songs more. You cannot expect more of the pop songs of American or Spanish types from her. That's the kind of things that like thoughts are always inseparated from the matter. Okay, idealist versus materialist. Then he used this word dialectics, this process, dialectic materialism, to explain this historical materialism. Okay, see, what I have shown you is primitive society, then masters and slaves, then feudals, then capitalists. What was happening here is Marx said that according to Hegel, it was idea one, then second idea, both combined, then it gives another third idea. But here, according to Marx, it is said that these societies are created on the reasons of economic situation. Economic situation. Okay, matter one, matter two, and these both the matters combines to give another materialistic system. That is economic system only. And these materialistic system thought process here and here combines, and then they gives another materialistic system. Okay, this is epoch one, epoch two, epoch three. All these are stages. Okay, and this is actually the complete history, how this history has been created, and the word here is referred as historical. All this formation is called as historical, and he used it in a form of economic situation, that is historical materialism. This that I have explained with the help of these thinkings and the use of materialism, that is economic condition, is called historical materialism. The definition is each economic system or the modes of production in human history contains within it a contradiction that eventually leads to its demise and replacement by another, more advanced stage of economic and social life. And the contradictions inherent in feudalism, such as necessity of states ruled by monarchs to trade with other states. For example, the contradiction when feudalism was there, these merchants were not allowed to trade or to sell their goods to the kings of different countries or different nations. Okay, and this caused the contradictions, and this leads to feudalism, capitalism. Okay, now we have understood all this concept of historical materialism with the application of dialectic materialism, and how this dialectic materialism thought process came into the mind of Marx. Okay, see, I have explained these processes till capitalism, and then Marx explained another theory. That theory is called theory of alienation. What this theory suggests is, for example, we have machineries. Okay, these machineries can provide lots of output. And another place we have human and we have competition. All the global economies are getting together, so there is a competition in the market. And when these machineries are equipped to get the profit to stay sustained, these capitalists, what they will do, they increase the production and they decrease the wages. And what happen is, for example, what happen is they increase the wages. Okay, and now to get the highest profit, they produce the content which is very much expensive, and to get the profit they also reduce the wages. For example, the alienation terms comes when you create something, you love to enjoy to do it and you have it, but when you create something and you don't know what its use is, then you are not able to feel its actual value, and that feeling is called alienation. For example, if they had nothing to do with our own label, then we have become alienated from our sense of our own species being. Like, for example, the people who are making iPhone in these industries, they are completely oblivion whether how to use it, and they can be referred as alienated. Or the expensive shoes factories, they are also alienated. Okay, now we move on to the second PPT, second slide, that is base superstructure. So this is important, and first of all, the most important part is how these term has been devised. Why the word structure is used, superstructure is used, not any other word. See, that this thing has been explained by Marx with the help of a building. Okay, and what do we call a building? We call it as an infrastructure. Okay, in this infrastructure, he defined various levels. Okay, and the base has been defined as only one place. So when you are creating a building, you always have a foundation unique, and then on the superstructure you can change any style, you can change the interior, exterior. Okay, the topmost thing is referred as superstructure, and the bottom, the foundation, is referred as base. So first of all, we need to understand what the base is. Actually, it is a concept of social formation, or we can also call it as relations of production in which the society interact. So base is all those people who are involved in the process of production, which we have already discussed as proletariats. Okay, these people are involved in the process of production, either people, machineries, and all those people who are controlling them. All these people who are in the machines or inputs, they can be referred as base. Okay, it is a concept of social relation. And then the people who are not involved directly with the process of production, they are in politics, they are in education, schools, they are in media, journalism, they are lawmakers, they are religious peoples. These are all referred as superstructures. Okay, and see, they give order to base how they should work. Okay, and they decide how it will reflect. If there is any change in the base, then the complete superstructure changes. I will explain this how this superstructure changes with the change of base. For example, what I have already told is, in the capitalistic system, Marx argued that superstructure grows out of the base and reflects the ruling class interest. First, they are the part of us. Now they are acting as if they are our bosses. As such, and then they justifies these ruling class and define their power to rule as well. Okay, so now the concept, how this concept of social relation of base and superstructure run. See, each influence the other. So if in case the base changes, so does the superstructure change. Example, there are two examples that I have already told. One is the historical materialism diagram that I have told you. In that diagram, you can see the feudalism system. It was defined on the basis of feudal peoples, and then there were capitalistic system, the master system. The whenever base changes, the superstructure changes. And if you want to understand how the change in base affect or change the superstructure, with another example in the present scenario, see, in your own household, okay, you are not getting any salary. Okay, you people are working day and night. I'm talking about the housewives, okay, and household people, okay, and they are working day and night and having only food. And what Marx defined it as, for example, household base and small scale, it called it as small scale production. And this style of social relation is called as slave society system. And when you go to the large agricultural system, okay, on those large agricultural system, the people who are having those lands, and then people are working on those lands, then this defines as a feudal agriculture system. See, the base change, then the structure also change. Okay, and if you go to the factory, you will see the workers working there, and there is a different kind of base working there, then therefore the superstructure is also a capitalistic kind of social relations situation. See, and this way I have explained whatever the nature of the base, such will be the nature of superstructure. If one base is replaced by another, then the old superstructure will be replaced more or less rapidly by a new superstructure. Okay, and the most important is the relation. The base shapes the superstructure, and what does superstructure do is it legitimizes the base. It means how does it controls the base. Okay, but this superstructure it in itself has many variations. It has been shown as this is the way used to control the base. Control means legitimize the base. Okay, and now we discuss how are in our textbook, IGNOU textbook, there are only three types of superstructures defined: law as a superstructure, legitimate superstructure, culture as a superstructure, and the third one is politics as a superstructure. See, we are people of literature, so first of all, I'm going to take over the culture as a superstructure. In that, our education, literature, everything comes as a part of it. Okay, see, the people like Shakespeare, they were writing in those periods of Queen Elizabeth, and what was that moment in that in their writing you will see that they were completely with the nature, they were completely obsessed with the nature of kingship, because they wrote at a time when Elizabeth I and her successor like James were trying to impose the absolute power of monarch over their subjects. Okay, and this is one example how the culture as a superstructure works. Okay, and another example of this is, for example, in our education system, the complete syllabus. This base never defines the syllabus. Okay, all these syllabus has been prepared by the dominant classes or the ruling classes. Okay, and another example of culture as a superstructure is there is a definition of culture by Karl Marx is culture is not abstract thing that is created by solitary. Okay, rather it is a product of social or economics in any society. Okay, so he explains that culture is used in a way to control the base. Another example is, for example, in the Christian society itself, you will find more than 30 plus versions of gospels bible in their society. And the moment, for example, when it was there, the feudal system, the people of landlord society, they interpreted the Bible in that way only. Okay, and when it turns into capitalistic system, then there is new interpretation of Bible came into being that is completely satisfying the way of merchant. Okay, then we have discussed the term that how culture as a superstructure in the education system, and even the different interpretation of the literary text, and how do they change the ideology of literature. See, this is an example. For example, if somebody is of 40 plus age, in their times the movies that used to being telecasted were people like Amitabh Bachchan, or somebody who is being a superhero for the poor people, Ajuba, or somebody else who is working for the poor people. People were shown as poor, and how do they manage? It was a different time. But today, if you see the movies or anything, even either in a, even TV serials also, you will see what you see. There is a complete materialistic, capitalistic system acquired there. You can't see any poverty. Even their homes are so big, their cars and everything is so rich and expensive, and has been shown in every each of the shows. And another example is, for example, there are Ekta Kapoor or various famous serials in which women are only shown as working housewives. How do they satisfy and run the families only? They were never shown as the people who are taking decisions or running the businesses also. These are the ways in which the culture is used as a way to control the base, or it is a part of cultural superstructure. Now, when we go to the law as a superstructure, equality. We all believe that India is an equal country. Okay, equality before law and everything is equal. But have you ever imagined that some people works very hard? They are called self-made. They become rich by so much of hard work, and some people get rich just to merely by hiring their parents or grandparents property. See, those rich people have prepared the laws as if they believe in equality. They serve the equality concept as savior for the bounties at the top of the structure, and frame the law that would legitimize the misappropriation of socially generated resources by a few. They hire all the wealth, they enjoy all the wealth, and they serve the law of equality to everyone and saying honestly that we believe in equality. And then last one that has been explained is politics. In that, there were first example that was mentioned in our book was union in industries. Okay, it has been seen that this union is made to help to raise the voice of the people in the industry. But indirectly, it has been observed that these union leaders they are always the puppets of the company heads. Rather, these unions are created in order to gain access or extra or easy control over the labors only. Okay, another example is that, for example, see, in political parties' election campaign, they have an option to give donation to them blindly. You can't see who is giving the donation. Okay, and then these rich people they donate money to these policy makers, these leaders, and they are elected to the power. And when they are elected to the power, what happens? These leaders are mostly in the hands of industrialists, and then they frame the policies in such a way that they are very supportive to these industrialists. Another example is, for example, in Indian society itself, you can see NPA. See, we have various frauds of crores in the bank, but you cannot fraud for the lakhs. By poor people cannot fraud with the bank with the lakhs, but the billionaires are doing fraud because their policies of indemnity, bankruptcy has been framed in such a manner that they are in favor of rich people or industrialists. Okay, these are the way these are three types of superstructures. Okay, I have explained the various styles of production, modes of production, how do they interact, how do they control, and how base shapes the structure, and how does, if a change in the base happens, how does the superstructure changes, and we shall discuss this in more details. So how does superstructure legitimize the base, and we have discussed the types of the three different types of superstructures as well. Okay, now how do these peoples, these rich people or the dominant class controls the base? This is something. This is another part. Okay, and to control people, there are two different ways. One is coercive, means you just use the brutal forces. You just use the guns. You may use the chappals as well to threaten the people to do their works. Okay, and what happens? You cannot hold them for a longer period of time. Okay, and rather than using forceful method, there is a different method devised to control these peoples, and this method is called the consent gaining method, or this is called as ideology and hegemony. Okay, now we are going to the third slide. Ideology and hegemony. See, ideology, the definition of ideology, what Marx has said about ideology is ideology works in literature to mask social contradiction such as those between economic groups. Okay, it means just it works as a way to hide the wrongdoings of those people. Okay, the definition of ideology is a body of principles, often political or social principles, that motivates the conduct of those who embrace it. Rather, in simpler way, what we call as it is a set of beliefs, or it can be an idea or arguments which are used to create a legitimacy to the rule or a code of conduct. And what is hegemony? I don't know about hegemony. Okay, dominant ideology of social society reflects the belief and interest of ruling class. We will discuss this hegemony in more details. Okay, before that, I want to explain this way how this ideology works. See, this ideology works in six different stages. It has been explained by Terry Eggleton. Okay, to make the ideology means to make people believe that this is the right way, this is correct, even though it is very much against, even though it is very much inhuman, still they believe that it is the right way. For example, in America, okay, they are very rich nation, they are very much superpower, they have so much of wealth, and still in their competition, you have heard of the news of the Mexico wall where a child was died. Okay, wasn't America so much powerful that they were not able to bear the cost of living of a child, and they let the child die? But not that. Like, the ideology works in that scenario of capitalistic system that they make the people inhuman. In that way, Donald Trump was very much rich billionaire, and still he let the baby die at the wall of Mexico. Or you can see in the various parts of the world also, the geopolitics, various war, economic terrorism, everything. These people are human as well, but they are controlled by different sets of ideologies. Okay, So how does this ideology works actually? First of all, if somebody wants to create an ideology, they first of all create a belief and then they start promoting that belief. And then after promoting that belief, that they try to naturalize it, that like it is being natural, it has not been created by a human, make it as a natural way. And when becomes a natural style, then they try to universalize as it is happening everywhere all around the world. Like it, after being getting it universalized, then what they will do, then obviously there must be an idea that will be neglecting that ideology, then they will devalue those ideas that challenges the ideology. Okay. And uh, and they reduce all the alternative and rivals of that ideology. Okay, this is more about the ideology, and then we go how this hegemony dominates the people. The definition of hegemony is the domination by powerful people, not necessarily by using the violence or forceful method, rather by winning their consent, getting their consent, and in serving something invisible to them and making them believe that you are doing right to them, although they are unaware that you are doing any good to them. Okay, then the dominance. Okay, how this hegemony, we are going in detail more with the hegemony, how this dominant ideology work in society. See, it is very much clear, we are observing it is inhuman and still we are not getting revolting, or we don't revolt against it. For example, how this hegemony work, first of all, they create a situation of subsistence living. You see the base, the people, migrant laborers, if they get sick for 2 more days, they barely able to get the food for the third day. That's the situation called as existential crisis. For example, they are always in a situation to get the food or earn every day. This is the situation that they are not able to think about anything. They don't think about the creative thoughts. They don't think about why this is happening like that. They are put in such a box that they are always having an existential crisis or a subsistence living, that if they don't do the work, if they don't get the job, then they won't be able to live. Okay, and these all thoughts are run through the rules created from social institutions. Okay, apart from this existential living, how do they control the thoughts of people? For example, religious and cultural concept of fate, destiny, and forbearance of virtue. If something is happening to you, to the people wrong, see, they rather than identifying the cause of that, invisible cause of that wrongdoing happening to them, they put it on the fate. They call it as a part of their destiny, as a share of destiny, or maybe the last thing that they believe is it may come out as a good virtue for them in future, maybe. Okay, such kind of thought process has been created to their mindset. And you see that you go to school, you learn all those ideologies that even used to control you, and you don't have any relevance of them in your life, and still for 15 to 20 years you're learning all those set of beliefs created by those dominant classes, and then you jump for the working, to go for the working, and you realize that those things are not applicable in those words. Actually, they are used to make you go for the work actually. Okay, and the last thing that they believe is, for example, acceptance of exploitation as a fate, destiny, or forbearance. Or, for example, even in the caste system, we have heard the society of untouchables. Even in untouchables, people have accepted that these people are born to make as a cleaners only. They have accepted it as their fate. Okay, and as if they don't have any capability, and it has been justified with various theories and religious theories that these people are only born to clean the dirt. Okay, these are various ways in which dominance is done through hegemony. Okay, now in literature we read, and there is a complete paragraph or 3 to 4 unit explaining how literature ideology hegemony works. I have already shared the answer of that with you. Okay, how various writings work hidden. It means that they exactly don't say the word, but indirectly they create the same thought process in your mind without saying that word. That, see, ideology can be hidden or go largely unnoticed within the literature. When literature seems to be non-ideological, some analysts would argue that literature inevitably has ideology. Okay, and another thing, how this hegemony or dominant class control the literature. See, we have censorship, censor board. Okay, and if something is out of their context, if something is against the ruler thought process or something against them, then what will they do? They just put on the censor to those things. Okay, and then the last thing, shall we? Kalyani ma'am has already explained it in a detailed way. Althusser explain of hidden ideology. What? Why did I say hidden ideology? Because whenever ideology is served in a hidden way, it is called hegemony. And how does it work? It has been explained completely in the question. But the term that has been used by Althusser is interpellation. 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 What does it mean? That, for example, a process of concerting of to ideology, for example, a process in which you consent yourself to an ideology and you are unaware that you are actually accepting something which is exploiting you. Rather, it makes you feel that you are independent. See, I feel I am independent. All of you are feeling that you are independent in this world, but this world has been created in such a scenario that you individually, in your freedom itself, you can't take the decisions yourself. A girl feeling independent in herself can't go to the market at 11 o'clock, even though the roads are safe, everything is safe, but still she has an ideology that this is not the right time for the girls to go out. Such kind of ideologies has been created, and these are the ways. And and in various ways, Althusser explains it in various kinds of example. The how does these thought processes works in schools, in household, and how it is served to the women. And last thing that Althusser has explained is in society there are predetermined set of roles out of which, see, we feel that we are free, but he says that in our society there are already created roles predetermined. Okay, and you feel that you are freely choosing them, one of them. But the thing is, you all you feel is you're choosing them, you're freely, but the reality is these all roles are created and put before you so that you choose them and then you turn yourself into that only. This is the way Althusser explained the ideology or hegemony works. And we have seen another example is transformation. Like the way I have explained that the movies that used to come to India, the old movies which have poor people, where a rich man has been exploiting them. Okay, and there is an Ajuba, Amitabh Bachchan, or some hero helping the poor, Robin Hood kind of things. Okay, and now today the movies, the hero is itself out coming out of the Audi, having a big business, having so much of attitude, so much style, so much of branding, and in this way, the society has been transformed into a society of materialistic thought process. This is called transformation. And this way, although we are not aware what they are doing with our children and how they are controlling our mind, and we feel that we are going out with the fashion or we are accepting it as if they are right for us. Okay, this is all the concept of ideology and hegemony. Now, the last presentation for our discussion is. Am I audible? First of all, let me know.
Yes.
Okay, fine. See, you are not supposed to drink this cup, okay? Now, study of literature. Okay, this is our part. Okay, I will share an answer over that. How does this transform the Marx transform the thought process of the people? Okay, Marx believed that literature analysis should be done in historical context in which it was written. Okay, and what we think is that ideas, the thoughts which we have is independent. Somebody is saying something, or the artist of art for art's sake, such kind. These things are referred as useless. Okay, these are referred as invaluable, and there is nothing like that. And artists are not something doing independent, solitary, genetical, special things. Rather, their work should be studied in the historical context that it has been written. So why do we need to do the criticism, Marxist criticism of literature? The demand, the concept is writer only did an interpretation of the world around them. They insist that the works of realist writer should reflect a progressive work outlook, be permeated with the progressive ideas, and deal with the truly topical problems. I see. I have taken all these definitions from our books only. Okay, the Marx says that the writers, what do? They just only interpret the things around them, and what their work should be to challenge this society, to find the wrongdoing happening in the society, and to make the people aware of that. And there are various literature that supports the dominance nature of the society. Okay, and a few are there as well who are against as well, who speaks against it. Okay, the reason. Why do we need to do the analysis of the literature? The very first reason is ideology is always hidden in the literature. And if you open the books of history, you will feel that this is Ashoka, the great Samrat Ashoka. This is, and if you go to the people of Mongolia, they will say mm, they're all the Mongol kings Khan, or they are great. And if you really open their text, and if you find that they have killed millions of people, hundreds of people in their life ruthlessly just to get the power in their hands. But the thing is, the literature, what does they do? The tradition and culture post the history as a sequence of positive victories, and cruel aspects are pushed to the background. They just hide the cruel things happened in the society, and they glorify all those victories that has happened. Okay, they don't explain the things clearly. That's why by hiding the destructive and cruel aspects of life, if it provides a rosy look of Elizabethan England. This word, this line, I have already explained. In which way, for example, Shakespeare was indirectly or directly was always appreciating the way the Elizabeth or the England was in the hand of Elizabeth, and he was undermining all the negative things happening at that time. When certain new aspect of life emerge, see what is that? Okay, you are writer, we are writer, we are people. Okay, and when you see all the things happening in the society, we are inculcated. These are imbibed in us. But whenever we see there is a change, there is a difference, that something is wrong with that ideology, something is different, something is wrong. Then what we think is we have a conflict of ideas. What will happen? Then we either follow the prevalent ideas that we already have, or rather than we go with the logical idea that is coming to our mind. See, when a certain new aspects of life emerged out of the scene, the writer either allow old ideology to grip his consciousness, or probe the factors, or rather than old ideology, he investigate the factors that leads to the new happenings or the new trends. Okay, these are all things that happen. The thing that I have missed in our part is in the new book of us in the unit 6, in the last unit, there is an explanation of the class and class system. How every thought, for example, people have a single thought common to them, and they put the word ism behind them, socialism, politics, everything. And this is the definition of the class where people have certain unique thoughts. Okay, now after these concepts and reasons, now I will move on to how to analyze a literature text in a Marxist style. See, we are not going for the depth of a literature text because it will take a lot of time. I have already shared and will share more the Marxist analytics analyst of various texts. And for example, how to do the study of the Marxist literature. First of all, we look over the overt and the covert meanings. See, text may have meaning in front of us, and there must be another meaning hidden behind that which we are not able to find. We need to find it. Okay, another thing we look for is the writer, from which class the writer actually belongs. And if somebody is from the poor class, he most probably writing for the poor people. And if somebody is from the topmost class, he will be appreciating those novels, such certain kind of, and the historical context in which situation it was labeled, the class conflicts, the socio-economic situation of that area, how what is the social relation, what was the class society, what kind of people's status was there, genres, themes, and the characters. For example, in various novels or fiction, you see the characters as well, and there are characters who are good, who are at the top of the social in the society, and there are some workers or the lower people who are working in the home as a servants. And then you need to see how do they interact, how do the topmost people are treating those lowermost people in those novels or the literary text. And for example, if somebody is doing in that way, and it will reflect in our thought process as well. And what are the modes of production and its relation, and was this text written in support of the current society or in against? Like I have already explained, when the William Blake wrote the poem on London, how the people are getting exploited. There was another poem on London as well, which was appreciating all the skyscrapers, all big buildings, all the richness of the London as well. So whether the text is on status quo or in support, then just a short example I'm giving for it, look for the overt and the covert meaning. In this way, we are able to identify the hegemony is working behind the ideology that has been served to the people. Okay, see, I have done in my first time that I have done the poem of chimney sweeper. Okay, and that poem was in my mind as well. So I was able to do the analysis of that poem only, and I'm just taking two lines of that poem. One thing, an angel told Tom if he would be a good boy. I hope everybody remembers the poem that we had done in the first year. Okay, an angel told Tom he would be a good boy. What is that? See, it was a baby, 4 or 3 years old. Rather bad or good, there was nothing good or bad in that boy. But what was the actual thing is the church support for the exploitation. In that period, church was also in support of those industrialists and allowing the people that they should serve them. And that's why it is called you need to be a good boy. It means that you should work for those people, and it has been told by angel. Angel means it has been reflected as church. Then the second part in the line is the second stanza comes with Tom, Dick, Joe, Ned, and the thousands of sweepers locked up in the coffins of black. See, the thousands of sweepers and the various names that has been used, it signifies that this is the social acceptance to sell the children. See, today nobody is there ready to give his or her children to the people just to die in the chimney. But in that industrialist time,
Sorry,
it
Junaid,
was.
you're breaking up.
Am I
You're
audible?
breaking up, Junaid.
Not
I
clear?
No,
think
you.
you were clear.
Yeah, it is audible. You are audible, Junaid.
Swagata, I think maybe you exit and re-enter because it was quite clear.
Am I audible, Swagata? Okay. So see, am I audible to everybody of you?
Yes, you are.
So let me take some sips of water before.
Yeah, I was just going to suggest that.
Yeah, I know that. Thanks, Devoshi. But you are not audible. Why don't you speak? Maybe you are in your home.
She's having a mic problem, I think.
No, I don't think so. She might be in her home and don't want to tell it everybody that she's attending any class in the night. Okay, fine. Audio is fine, ma'am. Okay, now we continue. And Swagatam, just tell me what was the last thing that you have heard so that I can continue from there only. What was the last sentence that you listened to me clearly?
Yeah, you were talking about just finished talking about the church and the poet, the chimney sweeper's poem, and maybe a minute or two after that, you were
Okay, okay.
continuing with the explanation of the chimney sweep, and we were talking about the church, how it was exploiting,
Yeah, okay. Then
children at
the
that time.
way I have explained this, then let me go to the PPT. Okay. See, the chimney sweeper poem. Okay, and in that, William Blake said, an angel told Tom if he would be a good boy. Okay, the angel reflects to the church, and he wants him to be a good boy. But in what way? To accept the exploitation. It means you should be a good boy and you should work all those things, clean all those things, even if you die. But you need to be a good boy, and church was supporting this. And another, when you go to the second stanza of that poem is Tom, Dick, Joe, Ned, and the next line I have in my mind is, and the thousands of sweepers were locked up in the coffins of black. And it reflects that the selling of children in that period, it was quite prevalent that, for example, today we are selling we people are selling the vegetables, we don't bother it. Okay, and in that period mothers are selling their children just to earn the food for the other children, and it was quite common. The rich people buying those children, it was also quite common for them, considering that these poor people get some help there by selling their children. Okay, then it says these names, these common names, Mohit, Rohit, Shohit, Sharma, such like that, Tom, Dick, Joe, Nag, and these, it is quite prevalent that this is the social acceptance to sell the children. Okay, now the last line that has been there is, though the morning was cold. This is the last line of that poem. Though the morning was cold, Tom was happy and warm. Okay, see, what was that? The poem, it has started with a cry. The cry was weeping, was not able to speak, and was crying. And even the Tom child, every child was crying. And what it reflects is when the church happened and every all kind of ideologies happened. What will happen? Even the morning was cold, Tom was happy. It shows that the Tom has accepted the exploitation happening to him, and he's accepting it happily as if he's a lucky guy. Okay, this is the concept of hegemony, that a baby who is going to die in the chimney, who was scared before and now made to smile. Okay, so though the morning was cold, Tom was happy and warm. In this way, if you analyze the poem, this is the style how the Marxist study of a poem is done, and so there are various other styles of doing that. For example, if you go to the Cinderella and various other Disney movies, in Cinderella, you see the queen, the king, they were reflected as if they are the best people in the whole town. The king, the prince knows everything, and you see the people. There are certain people who are working very poorly, and the mother, the stepmother, is treating them as if they are feeling less people. And in this way, we analyze the text, we understand the characters, how do they interact. Okay, after I have already shared four different types of questions that are quite common for the IGNOU point of view. I will share also one more question answer, that is how this study of Marx was born in the period of 19th century. 19th century means 1800, around 1800. Okay, 1800 to 1850 something. Okay, in that period, what industrial revolution was happening, and French Revolution, and every society was demanding a concept of liberty and fraternity, republic. Okay, that was the time of Marx was born, and you see there is a transformation. People were romantic at that time. The people like William Blake, P.B. Shelley, who was challenging the society, their evils, and then turns the 20th century, and then comes the people like Eliot. I'm not saying idiot, I'm saying Eliot, T.S. Eliot. Okay, those people come as individualist. See, TTML, तू तेरा देख मैं मेरा देखता हूँ. See, individualistic. They don't bother what is happening in the society. Either there is a good happening in the society or bad is happening in the society, and the same thing is reflected in the social in the society of American or developed countries as well. You call it as a diplomacy. So today I wind up, and I am very much sorry that I didn't able to get much of my time to explain all these things in a more clear and lucid way. Thank you very much. Thanks everyone. Thanks for bearing me. Am I audible or disconnected?
No, Junaid, it's a fantastic lecture, in fact, because you did more than what we would have done with Marx, because all of us found Marx a big question mark. So this time at least there's been a lot of clarity. You've really done a very good explanation. Yeah, very good.
If you're going to skip all the questions, just to do only the question of the essay on Marxism, even if any question comes out, just you take the heading of the certain points in that. If they ask of ideology, certain kind of thing, just to prepare one question of essay on Marxist.
Yes. Okay. We'll do that.
Thank you, everyone.
Good attempts. Very good attempts.
Thank you very much, sir.
It was just a conversation, not a teaching. It was just a conversation. Everything was clear.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Okay. So, okay.